please be seated. Order, honourable members. The Secretary will read the second order of the day.
Reply to the debate on the Premier's State of the Province address.
Honourable members, I will now afford the Honourable Premier an opportunity to reply to the debate. Honourable Premier, I recognise you.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, as I stand here today after yesterday tabling of the speech and today listening to the debate with intent, and if you remember yesterday I asked us all to step up, and I'm very happy to see that stepping up became quite a common theme across all of the speakers, so thank you very much for that. Can I also say that I want to thank every single speaker in the debate for your inputs, for your, I'll say, constructive criticisms, for your questions asked, for some of the data you put on the table. I really appreciate those inputs. Thank you. Speaker, I also want to say that throughout today, obviously, we listen to those inputs, but in this province, we remain resolute and focused on making sure that we are enabling the economy to grow. We are enabling entrepreneurs and businesses to grow. We are enabling them to create more and more and more jobs. And we are enabling our citizens, every single one of our citizens, we are enabling them to be able to step up and get hold of those jobs, and take those jobs, and get those jobs, because that is how we really start to change this province exponentially. I also want to say that we must use this platform to be absolutely honest, always. Speaker, I am really looking forward to the day that we have an AI bot sitting on the side of the screen there, that continually checks the data that we use when we stand here and make our speeches, and it turns red when we are not telling the truth, or it turns red when we are very economic with the truth, because we have to be honest. And unfortunately, we don't have that AI facility just yet, so I'm going to have to today correct some of those untruths. And I'm not allowed to use the word lies. So I'm going to correct some of those untruths, because they must be corrected. They cannot be left hanging. Speaker, I think, first of all, it was very interesting to listen to a number of the speakers, and initially I'll deal with some of the themes, but to listen to some of the speakers and how they were talking about DA corruption and DA failed government and DA this and DA that. And it was quite interesting, because while they were speaking, I was looking at them thinking, but which party do you represent, and where are you in government, and what does your track record look like? And it was very, very interesting, because every single time I got that feeling that this was a cover-up. This was trying to obfuscate what was actually happening. And quite frankly, the election last year, our citizens in our country stood up and said, genoeg is genoeg. And they brought about change, and that's why we have a government of national unity. Because we've got to understand, the ANC lost power after 30 years of that constant decline. Whether it was a decline in growth rate, or a decline in employment, a decline in hope. The only things that went up in the last 30 years were corruption and thieving, and exactly the opposite of that theme, that cross theme that seemed to come through quite often. And I want to say, in the context of Beaufort West and the Karoo, and where citizens of this region find themselves, in that context, where they too have experienced years and years and years of that kind of government here. They experienced the kind of government under ANC rule and then under ANC-PA coalition rule. And what happened during that time was that continual decline in the ability of their municipality to deliver the services that they deserve. Turnaround takes a long time. It is not a switch. You heard Minister Bradell talk about it. Turnaround takes a while. In this government, the Western Cape government, we took 10 years. The DG sitting there and our officials are sitting there because, of course, politicians have to set policy and direction, but it's the officials that spend day and night focusing on it. It took us 10 years to get to that space where we can stand here at the start of a year and say, ons departemente het nou weer 'n jaar waar hulle totaal oor die hele departemente en al die entiteite audite gekry het wat ongekwalifiseerd is. That took years and years of focus, dedication and really hard work. Dieselfde ding gebeur in ons munisipaliteite. En dis baie interessant, want as jy kyk en jy luister na die president en wat hy sê oor plaaslike regering, oor ons land, wat in krisis is, and then you go and look at the data, and 60% of South Africa's top performing municipalities happen to be in one province, hierdie provinsie. 87% of the municipalities in this province are in that unqualified audit space. And that is because of the help that Treasury and the Department of Local Government give to our municipalities. That is how it happens, and it takes time, and it takes investment. And yes, no government is perfect. And when Malusi Boy gets found to be wanting, we enable the investigation, and we are waiting for that court case, because we allow that to happen. But how many of your politicians post R1 billion spent, R1 billion spent on the Zondo Commission have actually had their day in court? Have actually had their day in court. So don't come here and mention one name. I think you should mention all of those ANC cadres whose names have been mentioned inside that Zondo report, because that is where the big problem lies in our country, and that's why the voters decided that julle kan nie meer regeer in hierdie land nie, julle kan nie meer dit doen nie. We will make that change, and that's exactly what the voters did.
Order. Premier, before you continue, please take your seat. Honourable members, on my left-hand side, you have had an opportunity during the debate to make your points. It is now, as per the rules, the opportunity for the Premier to reply. This is not your opportunity to get into a debate with the Premier from the floor while the Premier is on the podium. Honourable members, I ask that you allow the Premier an opportunity to respond. There is not just one or two members that made inputs, and it is the right of those members to get the reply from the Premier. Honourable Premier, you may continue.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Thank you. It's interesting to see that those provinces where the municipalities are the worst performing, the ones that have the disclaimers, the worst, absolute worst audit qualification that you can get, a disclaimer. Which provinces are the worst performing? The Eastern Cape, the Free State, and Northwest Province. Who runs them? I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. I want to also say, and I said it yesterday, but I'm going to repeat it again. I'm very proud of this government's track record on how we operate with open and transparent government. How we believe in taking documents to the people, engaging with those documents and policies and talking about those policies. It's interesting sometimes how many people actually do rock up and add to those policies, especially people who are elected by the citizens and sit on this side of the house, and what kind of interaction we get. But those policies and priorities, the G4J, months and months and months of consultation with our universities, with businesses, with political parties, with citizens, to get to a document that is actually showing results, and I'll get to that shortly. I look at our rural safety plan and going out across the province, engaging with citizens, with CPFs, with the police themselves, with our businesses and agricultural businesses in rural areas on how we develop those plans. Our provincial strategic plan, I mentioned it yesterday. You know, when the provincial strategic plan was being formed, we held a PCF, and I'm proud of the PCFs that we hold, where we bring about a gathering of provincial government and every single municipality in this province, and we sit together and we talk about the issues that we all face. And we bring national government into those platforms as well. And when we spoke about our provincial strategic plan, and Minister Mayor, you said the only province that has one already finished, finalized, printed, and handed out at this stage, because our other provinces are not doing it. The national government plan is not even ready yet. I believe on the 7th of March they will take it to Cabinet for final resolution, and hopefully then the national plan can also be tabled. But in this very town, we held the public consultation on our provincial plan, and we got the national plan to be presented at the same time. And what did we do? We also invited not only our municipalities, across all municipalities, our national government, I also invited the leaders of the political parties that sit on this side of the house to come and engage. And I'm sorry to say that in actual fact, only Mr. Petrus rocked up and came and gave input into that platform. I didn't see any of the other leaders of the political parties in this. But they have a lot to say when they stand here in a debate about the shutting down or not enabling public comment or participation. It does not exist. We create those spaces and we make them work. And then, of course, as I've said, first Thursdays, you name it, our open and accessible government. I gave a long report on it yesterday. I won't be doing any more now. There were large cross-cutting themes, and I think the two more themes that I want to talk about, one is crime and the other is jobs. So, crime. It is a big issue. It was raised by many, many members of this House who were elected by the citizens of this province to represent them and their needs and their will and their understanding of what we are busy with and perhaps opposition to it, and this is their chance to raise those issues. And I just want to remind the citizens of this province, the citizens joining us here today, but probably more so, those members of parliament who were elected, who swore allegiance to the Constitution, die mense wat eintlik moet weet wat aan ons grondwet aangaan, hoe prosesse uitgeoefen word. Julle verstaan nie dat polisieering hoort by 'n nasionale vlak. We've got a national minister of police, and that's in charge of police, not us. You don't seem to understand that. So I have to explain it again. Again. Now, it's not even 101. It seems to be more basic than that. But we do support the MOU. I must say that in the previous term, we never got anywhere with Minister Bekele, and I'm so happy that he was removed. I really want to say that Minister Mchunu, we must give him a chance. He has stepped up immediately and entered into that MOU with us, with the province, with the municipalities and national government, with the police, with our criminal justice system, and we've got to give this MOU a chance. We really have to. He has come with a whole new breath of fresh air, and we will really work hard. But the question is, and I heard the jibe, and we've heard it so many times, sometimes someone will stand up here and go, crime is out of control and you need to do more and stop spending money on LEAP. You shouldn't be spending money on LEAP. But crime is out of control and you need to do more and you need to fix crime. Again, less than 101, you need to understand that this province is stepping up into that space because our citizens are hurting. Our children are getting shot every single day due to gang violence. It is totally unacceptable. And I cannot believe that this House is still saying in these interjections, so what are you doing about it? That exact same person said,
Honourable
stop
members,
spending the money on
Honourable
LEAP.
Premier, please take your seat. Honourable members, this is the last warning to the members on both my left and right-hand side. Interjections are allowed, but this is now becoming running commentary. It is the opportunity for the Premier to reply to the debate. It's not only just for the members in this House. There is citizens waiting and watching the reply of the Premier. We have an obligation to ensure that the citizens are able to hear the reply from the elected representatives that's representing them here in this House. Honourable Premier, you may continue, and my apologies for the interruption.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, perhaps what I must say is just put a few facts on the table. So first of all, in our province, as of today, we have 16,224 SAPS police officers on duty in our province. Those are the police officers that are assigned to fight crime in this province. If you look to police to population ratios, what we should have is 26,000 police officers. 10,000 more. Not because of the province, because of national government, because of the ANC at national government, but I said we'll give that minister a chance. We heard from members about police to population ratio, and I absolutely agree. It is totally unacceptable when the areas of our province with the highest crime rate get the lowest police allocation. Unacceptable. Will the members of this House, please, through their members that are elected at a National Assembly space, raise those specific issues, because it is there at a national level where those divisions are made, where those allocations are made. I've said it year after year after year. Do you know they can change it in 1 hour? They can say, from 1 hour's time, we will not have 1 to 1,200, one police officer to 1,200 citizens in Cloutiesville. We will change that, and we will move police officers from Claremont to Cloutiesville. They can do it immediately. We can't do it, but National can do it. So please raise it there. I know you raise it here year after year. I also raise it nationally year after year. Let's get it done there. Stand up. You were elected to represent the citizens of this province. You make a lot of noise about how crime is hurting our citizens. Do your job. Get the data and facts in your hands and go and deal with the problem where it lies. That's your responsibility, just as much as it is mine. So what are you doing, they say? So let's just draw one or two of these statistics. I spoke yesterday about the Institute for Security Studies, an international organization that measures our safety plan. Not us measuring our own safety plan, not a provincial organization measuring the safety plan, an international organization measuring our safety plan. There it is. I did not have the document, I only had it in soft copy. But you know what? Hans Bühler from the Hans Seidel Foundation in Germany drove here yesterday and sat in this very house. I didn't see him, unfortunately. I wish I had seen him, because I would have really thanked him for the work that they are doing. I didn't see him, but yesterday evening, he brought me a full printed copy of that ISS report. And this report says what works for hotspot patrols in Cape Town, promoting higher performance policing. What we've been talking about from the beginning, data and evidence. And that data and evidence allows you to, as Minister Marais said, change your mind, try something new, move from 10 areas to 6 areas, put a roving group of 120 LEAP officers so you can send them into hotspots. You've got to keep doing different things to stay ahead of the criminals, trying new things. And this document, those members who raised those questions on policing, call for this document. Call for it in your standing committee. Interrogate the document. Ask for the detail. Ask these international people who came here and monitor our crime hotspots, walk on the streets in our crime hotspots. Ask them the questions. Yes, let's actually get those committees. But I'll just draw one page out of it. And this one page, you can see two graphs. And of course, if you're measuring something, you will know in statistics, you've got to have a control, somewhere where you don't intervene, and then somewhere where you intervene. So we only intervene in certain areas in this province where crime rates and murder rates are the absolute highest. We don't intervene or send LEAP officers to areas where crime is low. We send it to the worst areas where our citizens suffer every day because their kids are getting shot. That's where they are. And we also run next door, in a next door neighborhood, a control to see what happens when you do nothing and what happens when you do something. And it's interesting, this strategy reduced contact crime 5 times more than business as usual policing. This is where LEAP officers are deployed, and we do data-led policing evidence and dispatch and putting officers on the ground where the data says, at 11 o'clock at night and not at 8 o'clock in the morning, at a certain street crossroad, because that's the highest crime rate area of that specific area. We monitor those vehicles with GIS mapping to see who's in the area and who's out the area. They get a radio call to say, you've moved out of the patrol area, why? We make sure, and all of that is in this document. You'll see how our plan is being effected. And this is the real data. So in the control, we did get a lower rate, and we all know, and Minister, you spoke about it, and 2 days ago, the crime stats for this province were released, where crime did come down in this province. We are no longer the murder capital of South Africa, although 4,000 murders every year is just totally, totally unacceptable. That's why I really would love devolution of policing powers so we can take real control of policing and do what we're doing here on a grand scale across this province. But where we intervened with our programs, the drop was 15% in those hotspots. Not 3%, 15%. So is the LEAP program working? Yes. And here is the data to back it up. Do your homework as members of parliament before you come to debates. Get the data, get the evidence, because then we can really engage meaningfully with proper oversight and not just saying things randomly. This is the graph that shows what I've just spoken about deployment of SAPS officers. This is the graph that shows you the 16,224 SAPS officers that are deployed to our province. But perhaps at the same time, another international organization called the Global Initiative. Draw this document. Global Initiative Against Transformational Organized Crime. Gangsters at War. Get this document. Get it in your standing committee. Read it so that when we get into these parliamentary debates, we do so with proper evidence, with proper data that backs it up. Look at the Africa and the World Thematic Futures, another document given to us by the ISS. Really interesting document that talks about policing and the change of policing globally and referencing us here in this region. That's how we need to engage. Proper data-led evidence. Speaker, the next theme before I get to individuals, or perhaps maybe the last one, and I did mention this yesterday on crime statistics, and the question was asked, and I will reference individual members just now, but I think it was the Honourable Kashim that said, we only send our LEAP officers to the leafy suburbs, not to the crime hotspots. She is absolutely 100% data incorrect. And if I look at those areas that we send the LEAP officers to add extra reinforcements to the SAPS officers, and the increase in drug arrests, directly getting to gangsterism in our region. In Khayelitsha, the increase in drug arrests after the changing of the concentration of extra LEAP officers into those areas, the arrests went up by 62%. In Philippi by 333%. And in Delft by 43%. And in Gugulethu by 114%. Not in the leafy suburbs. We need to get the data correct. Speaker, then I need to talk about jobs. And also it was a theme that ran through many of the inputs. And as I said right in the beginning, we will be focused. We will be, I think Minister Simmer said, we will be obsessed with jobs. And we are obsessed with jobs. Because we have to be. We cannot be. I remember the president standing up, proudly announcing how we'd gone from 19 million citizens on grants to 20 million citizens on grants. And of course, we must have a social net, and if a citizen cannot make ends meet, we must actually have that grant to support them. But it's nothing to brag about when your country is going up in grants. We should be going down in grants because people are going up in jobs. And in this province, no matter what, we will remain obsessed on making sure we build an ecosystem that more and more people can get a job in this province. And there again, go and have a look at the data. Go and have a look at province by province. Across, and it's Stats SA data, it's not our data, Stats SA data. Go and have a look at the changes in province by province. It is glaringly obvious which province makes the biggest difference in South Africa when it comes to employment. Go and have a look at the changes in unemployment rates in South Africa and who sits right at the top and a broadening or widening gap. In other words, it's getting better and better year after year in this province compared to any other province. Which province is getting better and better? It is this province, and it is exponentially getting better in this province. That's why more and more people come here. That's why more and more people want to come here for healthcare, for education, and to try and get a job. If you have a look at the Western Cape, which has now the highest average household income in South Africa, that red line is the Western Cape. It is streaking ahead of Gauteng, which is in actual fact, Gauteng should be the engine room of the economy in our country. That's why the DA should be running Gauteng and not the ANC. I saw a photograph the other day of Gauteng, years and years after that explosion in the middle of the city with that gas explosion, and looking at it, what it looks like, and thinking about years later, they haven't repaired a main road in the middle of the engine room of the economy of our country, and we're welcoming the G20 to come and visit us, and you can't even get down the road, let alone the litter and whatever else lies around, as opposed to Minister Simmer's within days on site, within days building new bridges after they get washed away, fixing the problem quickly, efficiently, without corruption, getting the job done, as opposed to the supposed engine room of our economy in our country. We have the highest household income, we have the highest human development index, and all of these statistics, you can see the province exponentially getting better and better. And that's why the citizens in this province decided, unlike in the rest of South Africa, or South Africa itself saying to the ANC, you do not get a majority anymore. In this province, they said to the DA, ons hou van wat julle doen, gaan maar aan. Hou by die blou. And they gave us that mandate once again. And we will go to work every single day, moving those needles, growing exponentially more and more, and making the biggest difference that we can. I did hear mention, and I generally talk about just the unemployment rate or the employment rate or the 2.4 million people in jobs or the 62,000 more people who got jobs in our country. And you look at this graph and you can just see again, I wonder which bar that top bar is on the graph. Which province is it? Which province, wait a second, which province is the province that's delivering on it? Where every single one of those graphs, it's just an unbelievable story. This is the one that tells the best story, and it's very interesting at the National Cabinet Lekgotla, when Treasury is talking about the country, and they put this slide up, and you hear how every other province is trying to make excuses of why this province is doing what it does. But look, narrow and expanded, both of those are less than the closest other provinces narrow. Both of them. And every other province which is ANC run just gets exponentially worse and worse and worse and worse. But I did hear a comment about the youth. The Western Cape was the only province to reverse youth unemployment in South Africa. The Western Cape province was the only province to reduce youth unemployment in South Africa. And have a look at how exponentially it changes in this province because of our policies, because of our programs, because of our interventions, because of the opportunities that we give to young people in this province. No other province managed to get anywhere near this kind of report, only this one. And it's only this province wat blou is. Net hierdie provinsie. Die ander provinsies is die blou nie. The Western Cape has the highest percentage of dwellings with piped water. The Western Cape has the highest percentage of dwellings that have refuse removal. The Western Cape has the highest percentage of residents with flush toilets. And every single one of these indicators across the board show that there's only one province that stands out, that gets better every single year. It is this province, and not the provinces of the people that spoke on this side of the House in this debate. Speaker, before I get to the Leader of the Opposition, I just wanted to refer to a number of the speakers, primarily on this side of the House, to thank them very much for their inputs. As I said in the beginning, we have to make sure we listen to every single person. We take what people have said, and we've written down all of these. I've written them down in my own hand, but I was having a look at a spreadsheet that has already been created by my office that shows every single input from every single member in this debate, what they spoke about, so that we can actually have a look and see how we can have even a more considered response to this debate, not just 1 hour while you were having a break, me go and have a look at how I could answer some of those questions. But the Honourable Van Minnen, thank you very much. Specifically, a fair share of the budget. We will keep fighting for that. You spoke about the hotspot strategy. Thank you very much for your inputs. And we've got to keep focusing on our people, as you say, making the biggest difference we can. The Honourable Brian, thank you very much for your input, specifically linked to poaching and the message that we've just had about crime. It is integrated in the criminal activities of our province. The gangsters on the Cape Flats that are peddling drugs to our kids are actually linked through to the poaching syndicates, and we've got to break the back of that specifically. You spoke about the city of Cape Town paying back 55 million rand now to its citizens for electricity bought, and I cannot wait for this municipality to also be in that position. And after they've stabilized their financial system, and after they've got all of that good governance in place, I'm pretty certain they will then be the next town that is going to get investment into solar panels, that is going to get investment that they can start paying their citizens for power, and I really look forward to that date. You also spoke about recycling of water, which is critical, and this municipality leads in that space. The next municipality that's investing in actual fact is Cape Town, in the biggest recycling plant on the African continent, but I believe actually maybe in the world. The World Bank is partnering with them. So what you've done here and pioneered in this municipality, they're going to be rolling out in the city of Cape Town as a mega plant of making sure, as Minister Bradell says, we use the water more than once. We won't go into how that gets used, but we use it more than once. The Honourable Seleko, thank you very much. You spoke about bikes, and I heard some comment about cycling, and I'd very much like maybe a couple of you to join me, and let's cycle back to Cape Town. That probably would be quite a good call. I'd really enjoy that. I really would. But mobility is about everything. It is about walking and how we're safe on our roads. So many people that get killed on our roads are actually pedestrians. Pedestrians walking on our roads. We've got to be safe, whether we're walking, whether we're catching a train, whether we're in a taxi or in a car or on a bike or on a horse, as you say. We've got to get safe, and thank you very much for your programs of road safety. And you said mobility, the essence of freedom. I absolutely agree with you on that. The Honourable Nkondlu, thank you very much for your inputs. You spoke about jobs per household. Go and have a look at that data. You'll see this province has the most jobs per household out of any province in South Africa. I also really liked the part that you spoke about Gandhi and his statement about how we treat the most vulnerable in society. And I agree with you 100%. It is how we treat the most vulnerable in our society. And while you were saying it, I just thought SASSA. The most vulnerable people in our society rely on SASSA, and what a disaster that is. I mean, such a disaster. I know the Honourable Lont is really working hard to try and expand the hours in our ability to get cards. I know we're trying to expand the number of places to change it, but now it's cards. Last time it was just failure to pay. It's just a total mess. I think about not only SASSA and the most vulnerable, I think about our students and NSFAS. Yesterday, and I see the Honourable Benson is not here, but yesterday we were, and the Honourable Leader of the Opposition was there, where young people were talking about NSFAS and how that impacts them unbelievably. And quite frankly, when you were saying about how we treat our most vulnerable, NSFAS also comes to mind. I'll talk just now about how I think we should remedy that. The Honourable Marais, thank you very much for the role that you play in dealing with crime, getting our rural safety plans linked also to the city, knowing that it is not only in the city, and the more we put focus in the city, it bleeds out into our rural areas. You also mentioned the crime stats of coming down, and so thank you very much for the daily work that you put in to building a safer society. The Honourable Bradell, thank you very much. Maybe I shouldn't go to the Dubai corruption, but you really spoke about state-owned enterprises and their efficiencies versus bailouts. You also spoke about water issues, climate change, real critical issues. You spoke, and I also mentioned earlier, about the recycling of water. But critically, I think the most important thing that you mentioned is the work that's busy happening at the moment. We're not ready to announce it because, of course, again, we are waiting for budgets, and it does cost money to do it, but what you call the dignity basket. And I really like that, and thank you very much for the work that you're already doing on it, that the 50 kilolitres is not enough. It is not enough for poor households. How can we lift that to 100 or 150? I know that Stellenbosch has already put it to 100 kilolitres, and that's really nice to see. And so that's a municipality that's proactively looking after the poorest of the poor. I wonder who runs that municipality. But anyway, looking after the poorest of the poor, and it's going to be good to see what that does in households, how that protects households. But of course, electricity is the big thing. We know that over the last 10 years, 650% has been the increase in electricity prices. We know that the Minister of Finance, Minister Bartman, sent me some detail on this municipality's electricity plan, on monitoring, on payment. I think you said to me 84%. National Treasury want us to get to 95%. We're way short still in this municipality. But that means you've got to get the processes right. You can't get a payment from an indigent household. It's not possible. But then you must go through the process of applying for your indigent status, and you will then be excluded from the program. Or you will be, and hopefully the dignity basket kicks in, and we can say, well, how do we give you? And the suggested is, can we move this up to 150 units per household per month? And we really will work hard on seeing whether that is a possibility. But thank you for the work on that. Minister Meyer, for your work, leading the economy. Ek weet, jy's baie passievol as dit kom by treine. En ek weet, as hy treine gewerk het, seker die helfte van ons sou hier opgedag het, saam met die trein, en weer teruggaan saam met die trein. Ek sien uit vir die dag wanneer dit gaan gebeur. Die minister sit net agter jou wat dit gaan help uitsort. Hy is besig om daarmee te werk saam met ons nasionale minister en ons munisipaliteite. Minister Simmers, thank you very much for your input. Your statistic, 56% of jobs come out of the infrastructure sector. That's a really nice sector, a nice number. So we know in the last 62,000 jobs, the majority of those 62,000 jobs were actually in the infrastructure sector. It is a critical component of building an economy. If you don't get the infrastructure right, the economy fails. Just ask South Africa. When the electrical infrastructure fails, we have blackouts and a downturn in the economy, and we get negative growth rates until we get to a 0.4 or a 0.8 GDP growth rate, which doesn't give us the money for education and health because our taxpayers can't carry the burden. 60% of our tax income comes from less than 1 million taxpayers in South Africa. I mean, that is just an unbelievable, unsustainable number. We've got to change that. And we do that by investing properly in infrastructure. You also spoke about the rule of law. The Tafelberg site, the rule of law, I'll say a little bit more about that just now. But if we don't base everything we do in the rule of law, that's got to be your fundamental bottom line, the rule of law. So you shouldn't be leading illegal land invasions, because that doesn't stick with the rule of law. When you break that, you break the whole system. We've got to have the rule of law as the basis. And then the next level up on the pyramid is good governance, safety, energy, water. It's interesting how when you look at that, that's where the failures sit, and that's where this government intervenes, and that's why we get all of those statistics and data that you see behind me. But let me give some of the individuals one or two inputs. So the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, thank you very much for your input today. I don't know, I mean, we've got to be humble here. I wanted to say that I thought your press statement leading up to this State of the Province address, sorry, I thought that your press statement was excellent. It was a very good press statement. Your speech should have carried in the same trend, but I value it, and I thank you very much for it. I wanted to say that, and I have said it earlier, that you had a lot to say about corruption, but, you know, while you were speaking, I was looking at you thinking, wow, you know, the party you come from is almost the party of corruption. And so, it was a bit difficult for me, but I take it from where it comes. And I must say that, and I've spoken about it already, but that's exactly what our Treasury and our local government do, specifically in our local governments, where we do have corruption. We really work hard to try and get rid of it. And of course, it can happen in any municipality. In any municipality. But when it happens, we need to deal with it. We need to get it into a court of law. We need the law to follow through. I spoke about that bottom line of the rule of law. And then actions must happen, and there must be consequences wherever it raises its head. I also want to say that where those municipalities are working, for example, in this very municipality, and thank you to Treasury and the local government in working with Eskom, in writing off some of that debt. So 25 million rands worth of electricity debt owed by this municipality to Eskom has been written off. That means this municipality has been given a little gap, a gaping. Hulle kan 'n bietjie asemhaal. Don't waste that opportunity, don't waste that gap. Use that gap to get this municipality to that next level again. Because we want every single one of our municipalities to be high-performing municipalities with good governance, the rule of law as a base. And so then they will, over time, get to the good governance results. I told you it took us 10 years. Hopefully it takes only a few years in this government, in this local municipality, to get your governance right, to make sure that you've got the right people doing the right job for the right people in the right place, not stealing the money, making sure the services are being delivered. And then what happens is you change everyone's lives. You give better service delivery, and that really makes a difference. You had a lot to say, the Honourable Saeed, about basically about the Gini coefficient, about the gap between rich and poor. And again, as I said earlier on, we must always base what we say on data and evidence. Go and just Google Gini coefficient by province in South Africa. You don't have to do anything else. Just Google Gini coefficient by province in South Africa, and the Google will tell you, in the first AI component of Google reply, will say the Western Cape has got the lowest Gini coefficient in South Africa. That means the gap between rich and poor is the best in this province. Why? Because of all of that data on how we create a better economy, jobs, and opportunity for people. That's how you narrow the Gini coefficient. Not the way you do it in Northwest, not the way you're doing it in the Eastern Cape. It is not working. You've been doing it there for 30 years. It's not working. Follow some of these recipes. We're not perfect yet, and it is still a very high Gini coefficient, but it is way better than any other province. The Gini, that is not spinning. No, it is not spinning. That is true, correct data. Go and have a look at it for yourself. Then, thirdly, and I think the Honourable Simmers in his reply did deal with you on the George building collapse. But let me say it again. When a building like that collapses, and it is such a major, horrific disaster, when that happens, the law is quite specific on who should be investigating such a failure of construction. And it should be SAPS, number one, because people lost their lives. They are the now apex responsible entity for that George building collapse investigation. They remain apex. Because what's got to happen, and I'm saying it now, consequences for that collapse must happen through the courts of law, and people who failed our citizens must go to jail. So SAPS is apex. Then, of course, the Department of Labour has a very critical role to play here. Where is the Department of Labour? Where is their investigation? Have any of you ever asked for that investigation? Ever? Where's the NHBRC? Where's their investigation? These are statutory bodies who should be investigating this. Niks nie. Zippo. But when I got there on day one and saw what was happening, the shock and horror of that collapsed building, I really got super concerned. Then I looked at what was happening on the site. And that was quite interesting. Minister Bradell at one stage standing next to the PC with the Department of Labour walking onto the site saying, okay guys, this is our site, all of you guys off site, we're now managing it. And SAP said to them, we will arrest you. These guys are rescue workers and disaster management, and they are saving lives on this site. You shut up and go and stand on the side. They didn't even know what they were doing when they arrived at that site, let alone ever getting to some kind of investigation. And straight away that evening, I said, I think we need to put an investigation. And Minister Simmers, baie dankie vir jou departement. They jumped up, they stepped up, they procured the services of an engineering firm who started then immediately testing the concrete, testing the reinforcing, photographing, calling for outside players to bring photographs, looking at plans, the changing of plans. They went into a super deep investigation. That investigation report, not all the documentation, just the report is this thick. And they really did produce an outstanding report that will give us the consequences in the court of law that people must go to jail. People who are responsible wherever they lie, I don't care. If they were responsible for a failure, they need to be charged, they need to go and have their day in court, and if they are found wanting, they must go to jail. That's what's got to happen out of this report. Now, I promise you, it will not help at all if we suddenly hold an open public hearing and standing committees and start interrogating the veracity of this report before it's even got into a court of law. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. We engaged, in actual fact, I promise you, I would have loved to have said, we've done the report and we are now going to make it public and we're going to go to town on it. As a politician, that would have been wonderful. But that would have been so stupid because we would have really sabotaged the proper process, which is a legal court of law process. And so that is why we asked for legal counsel when the report was finished. And remember, it wasn't just the report of those that were procured. They then went and had it peer-reviewed. And then that report, we had legal counsel, what do we do with the report? And they That apex entity, because people died, is SAPS. They have to do the investigation. And the best thing to do is to hand that report to SAPS. That was our legal advice, and we followed that legal advice. SAP's advice to us was exactly the same. Please give us that report. And when we handed it over to General Patekile, he had the whole investigation team in the cabinet room, and Minister Simmers and I handed over that copy to SAPS, who have now taken it away, added it to their investigation, and I cannot wait for those charges to be laid. Once that's happened and it's a public document in court, then you can interrogate us on how it was procured, what the results were, whether the investigation was proper or not. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Then you will play your role as oversight. And I'll give you, every single one of you, a copy of that document, no problem at all. But I will not allow the investigation to be sabotaged. And I'll give you something else that no one knows here. The Human Rights Commission have also said, we want a copy now of this report. So what I've done is I've said to them, our advice was, we hand it to SAPS. Please ask SAPS for that as the Human Rights Commission. They've come back and said, no, we want it. Our legal advice again, so we can't give it. And what we've done now is we've asked SAPS, please let us know, can we give it to the Human Rights Commission? I would say to you, if you really want it as a political party, or if you really want it as a standing committee, write to SAPS and ask them, can you have a copy? Let's get it, try the process. Let's see what happens. I will not jeopardize a legal process where we want to have those responsible in court and making sure that they get their day in court. And Speaker, I know I'm trying to answer this debate, and I know people want to get back to Cape Town, but I've just had a job, and I think I must answer it, like I did with Fritz. I promise you, every single day, the Fritz report burns me like anything. Because I gave my word to the individuals who said to me, we will come forward, and they went, and there was an independent investigation. I cannot wait for those individuals to say, let's go to court, because then it becomes a public document. Right now, it is not a public document, and you can do whatever you like. You can summons me, try and get it through a summons. I would gladly give it to you if the court say, hand it over. But you know very well that can't happen. And with Mkasela, of course, I had to hand all of that. Well, I didn't. In actual fact, Minister Simmers handed Mkasela's documents over to the police. And quite frankly, you should ask your very own parliament, of the money that he took, how much has he repaid? I've already given those details to this House. He's already admitted guilt by repaying the money that he had taken. The Honourable Petrus, thank you very much for your inputs. I do want to say something about illegal foreigners. And there's a big difference between illegal foreigners and legal foreigners. And of course, illegal foreigners are illegal. They should not be here. They need to be managed through border management control. They need to be sent home if they are illegal. But, what I do not approve of is when we just sweep it all up into random statements and start promoting xenophobia, because that does not help our country one bit. In actual fact, many foreigners who are here legally play an immensely important role in our economy, and we welcome them. We welcome them. But that's the big difference between legal and illegal foreigners. And again, I said it earlier, the rule of law is where it all sits. As long as the rule of law is always applied, we will then be able to build and go forward. You also spoke about help for municipaliteite. I can say that we obviously try to help wherever we can. I've spoken about how local government and treasury help out. Ek kan self sê in daai een munisipaliteit waar jou party in regering is, waar julle totaal opgemors het en Nysta, ek gaan nie meer sê daaroor die behalwe die 40 miljoen rand van provinsiale belastingbetalers se geld wat ons eintlik daarin gepomp het om dinge reg te maak dat mense kan ten minste water en honlie kry. Dat mense ten minste die basiese dienste kan kry, want jou party ongelukkig het die hele plek opgemors. So yeah, we do try and help local governments where we can. Then the Honourable Johnson, thank you very much. You spoke about the financial recovery plan. And I've already mentioned that in our province it took us 10 years to get the audits right. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication, en dieselfde gaan gebeur hierso in hierdie munisipaliteit. Dit gaan nie oornag gebeur nie. Dit vat tyd om jou sisteme in plek te kry, om die mense in plek te kry wat gaan sorg dat die sisteme werk, dat die dienste kan gegee word, dat die geld wat moet inkom, en waar dit moet betaal word, dit word betaal. It is critical that we get that right. And of course, between you and perhaps the input from the Honourable Barnes, who also spoke a lot about this municipality and people in this municipality. And so I think between your input and the Honourable Barnes's input, I do want to say that we have to ask ourselves the question, why? Hoekom is hierdie munisipaliteit in die posisie wat hulle nou in is? How did it get here? I'll tell you, if you don't know. I hope you do know. But I'll tell you because it seems as though you don't know. When you have years and years of ANC corrupt management, where you put vriende en maatjies in plek, wat nie die werk kan doen nie, waar jy geld steel, where you don't do the right thing in the interests of the citizens, where you really mess up year after year after year, never really taking your responsibility and your allegiance and your swearing to the Constitution honestly and effectively, the municipality does this. And the problem is, hoe dieper dit gegaan het, hoe langer gaan dit vat om die ander kant van die drif uit te kom. But luckily, en ja, te danke aan die kiesers, hulle het besluit genoeg is genoeg in hierdie munisipaliteit, en hulle het verandering gebring. En so dankie vir hulle. Dit gaan tyd vat. Ons sal definitief vir julle op hoogte hou van alle prosesse, hoe dit verander, die ekstra hulp wat ons gaan gee as provinsie om hierdie munisipaliteit te help vorentoe gaan, want dit is baie belangrik dat ons hierdie mense van die Karoo daai kans gee, daai hupstootjie gee om hulle volle potensiaal te kan uitlewe. That's what we got to do. But we got to ask ourselves the question, why? Why did that happen? And I know why. Because of bad, horrendous government. You know, the Honourable Barnes, I think, also spoke about it, about electricity. I think the previous speaker, and Honourable Petrus, also spoke about it. I think about this town and its ability to have solar power into the grid. You know, I saw a press release once with a whole lot of solar panels being delivered in the desert. It was unbelievable. Hierdie munisipaliteit gaan die eerste wees met hulle eie kragopwekking. Ongelooflik, groot persvergadering, pers van oor die land trokke, solar panels, unbelievable. A weekend special, die volgende week kom hy trokke weer terug, laai weer op en gaan huis toe. Tololo, nothing. That is not how you govern. You can't do it like that. You've got to be honest, you've got to have integrity, and you've got to deliver with meaning, because that's what changes people's lives. You can't come here with false promises of Dubai in the desert and tar factories en ek weet nie wat anders nie. Dit werk nie so nie. Maar ek sien die mense van hierdie dorp het by mekaar gestaan en daai trawante uitgejaag uit die dorp uit. Dankie. Ek hoop my stem gaan nog hou. Ek weet julle wil ry, maar the Honourable Kasim. Thank you very much for your input. I said we've got to be truthful. We've got to make sure we have the correct data. I spent a lot of time on that data. I promise you your input, you need to go and have a look at Hansard. We don't have that AI test yet, but maybe I should just run your speech through AI and see what it says. But your speech was very data poor. Your research is very short on facts. And quite frankly, I think the racist stance of your speech is actually not acceptable in this province. We should reject those kind of speeches in this province. We need to be honest with each other. We need to point out where things are failing, but we also need to be truthful. We need to make sure we say the right things. What you were saying about your crime stats were totally misleading and unacceptable. Please, please, please ask your researcher to have a look at this document so that they empower you with the right facts. I also want to say one other thing that I thought was unacceptable. You can't stand here in a parliament where the Constitution has asked you to swear allegiance to it, where you are elected as an honorable member, and actually stand here and promote unlawful activities of crime fighting with Pagad. You can't do that. Pagad is absolutely welcome to help the police and make sure we do the right thing. But you can't promote unlawful activity. The rule of law is the basis of any performing economy and any performing citizenry. We've got to make sure we stick to that and stick to the Constitution and what the Constitution enables us to do. A state that has the rule of law. The Honourable Jacobs, ek is jammer dat hy is nie nou hier nie, maar the same thing, I'm sorry, you were very data poor in your speech. I mean, the high-lying things is you're talking about the murder rate of 3,000 people. It's over 4,000 people, which is totally unacceptable. And that number is the number that drove me in this province to say we cannot be a province with only oversight over policing. We must intervene in different ways, and that is where the safety plan comes from. So we can't have fabricated stats. We need to have real stats, and I think that is overall one of the general messages here. And then, of course, we must tell the truth. That's always something. Now, of course, I can not give you the exact areas where you were very economical with the truth. I don't have that AI tool yet, but where I can tell you categorically and honestly that my children definitely did not go to a private school. They went to government schools. Then the Honourable Philander, thank you very much for your inputs. I think, again, what I said earlier about NSFAS, and thank you very much for the agitation and the drive that you, along with the Minister, put into the most vulnerable citizens in our system, in our province. Thank you for what you do there. And I think here is where, as the chair in the committee, this is where I think we should actually, with the support of this side of the House in the committee, I think we actually need to get the Minister responsible for SASSA to come and report to our standing committee on what is happening. What are they going to do to fix it? It cannot happen again. The most vulnerable in our society, as the Minister in Nkondlo said, repeating what Gandhi's words were, it's how we treat them, and how SASSA and the way that SASSA is rolling out is exactly how we should not be treating the most vulnerable in our society. And while you've got them here talking about SASSA, I think at the same time, let's get the Minister here to come and report on NSFAS as well, because that is also very vulnerable citizens in our society. And I look forward to attending that stand committee while the two ministers are explaining their way out of why they're not supporting our citizens in those two very, very key areas. The Honourable Brinkhuis, thank you very much for your support. Thank you for calling for working together. Thank you for bringing investors into this region. And you said specifically investors from the Muslim world, and I value that. I think specifically of getting companies in to run our harbours. I think harbours out of Dubai are some of the best run in the world. And I would support 100% that we get some of those companies tendering for the privatization and running of our harbors or our airports. Qatar and their sovereign fund, and specifically, as I spoke earlier, the engagements we've had with them on green hydrogen and other investments in our area, or whether it be agri-processing investments into halal foods, into Southeast Asia. We've already gone up to in excess of 10 billion in exports in halal foods, but how can we take that to 20 billion and 30 billion? So absolutely, we would support you in that 100%. And then, of course, you mentioned that I should have the ability to sign executive orders. But, Honourable Member, I'm sorry. We are a constitutional democracy, and I believe in our Constitution and the scope that that Constitution gives us to run a government, which is exactly what we do and how we do it. And I do not think we should venture into that arena that you were suggesting, because that would then move into might is right, which is what I said yesterday. It's the arena we don't want to venture into. We believe in democracy. We believe in the say of the people. and we must stick to that, absolutely. Thank you. Then, the Honourable Christians, thank you for your input. Here, I wanted to just say a little bit about AGOA. And of course, yesterday I mentioned the impact globally on elections and election outcomes, and of course, AGOA specifically now talking to the US. We've already had indications of the loss of USAID and PEPFAR. We might have given a little bit of reprieve, but I honestly believe that that is something that is going to be cut. But I do want to say, and exactly in your words, what are we going to do about it? And so Minister Wenger and her team have already done a lot of work on what we have done, how we've already mitigated risk by migrating our purchase of antiretrovirals into our own budgetary items, not using aid for that. But unfortunately, what happens is the aid's going to affect our NGO sector. And so we will fight this. And we are busy putting detail together. Exactly the same on AGOA. And so we will engage, and we are engaging with our national counterparts. Of course, this is led by Parks Tau at our national level. We will engage, but at the same time, we will do our provincial, we will exercise our provincial mandate. And Minister Mayer and Wescrow are already in the process of engaging with US businesses that are invested here. You know, there are more than 600 US businesses invested here. They're engaging with AGOA exporters and the exporters who are not AGOA. And so we're busy putting work together. 2 days ago, I was engaging at the B20 with AmCham, the American Business of Chamber, and their delegates that were at the B20, and we'll pull them into the room. We've already spoken to BLSA, and they were speaking to Wescrow because they were busy talking about how that's going to set up. We will bring our national counterparts in, but we will definitely understand that this is a massive risk for us as a province, and we will mitigate that risk in whichever way we can, obviously within our constitutional mandate. But Minister May and his team are already very active on that, and Minister Wenger and her team very active on that. The Honourable Heron, you spoke about us not having a crime summit. I draw you to the 13th and 14th of November 2018 when I first became the MEC for community safety. It was before it became police oversight and community safety. Exactly that, a 2-day crime summit. We had international speakers, and that's where the Bavarian team actually then came. They brought their chief of police to that summit, and the Bavarians started to then say, we will support you if you build a safety plan. At that same very summit, the National Police Commissioner, the National Police Minister, Provincial Police, our department, the municipalities, private sector, the CPFs, the neighborhood watchers, even the businesses who are involved in crime fighting and in safety, they were also there. All of them. We had that summit, and that summit led in to the development of the safety plan a year later. If you remember, I purposefully took that job because I was wanting to put up my hand to become the Premier, but I thought one of the issues that face us as citizens in this province is safety. It is a massive issue, and that's why I was involved in it. We set it up exactly the opposite to what you've said. And another thing on policing. There's a document that this department produces every single year. It's called the Policing Needs and Priorities. There is no document like it in any other province in this country. An absolutely outstanding piece of work. And if you really want to engage and you are serious about policing as a standing committee, you should engage in that document and use that document as a foundation and a basis to really ask those questions of the shortfalls, specifically where policing happens in our province. And then over and above that, it is our safety plan. I don't need to say any more about that. I do want to mention one other thing, and that is you said that I should engage with and speak to Ndifuna Kwazi. I can tell you that in the last year I've had 5 meetings with them. So you need to also there get your facts straight. But I also want to caution you. I saw that, and I don't know whether you did step over the line and you are going to be arrested or not, but you're trying to play a role in all of these funny little things and platforms to keep relevance for your party or one-man party. And I saw you leading the charge to try and illegally invade a piece of state land. You swore an allegiance to this constitution. So please, I'm cautioning you there. Don't do that kind of thing. That really doesn't help anybody. I spoke about the rule of law. We've got to have the rule of law, specifically amongst us as elected politicians in this room. Then the Honourable Stevens. There again, I've already mentioned, you spoke about Sonplaas. I've already spoken about the Sonplaas here in this municipality, en ek weet nie nou waar dit is nie, maar dit was daar vir 'n naweek. Maar nou is hy weer weg. You need to ask other people, specifically leaders in your party, as to what happened to that Sonplaas. The Honourable Barnes, I think specifically I have already answered you in why. Why are you able to quote all these failures? Look to yourself. Look to your political party and the failures that you have brought upon the citizens of this municipality year after year after year after year. Maar dankie vir die munisipale mense hier, vir die kiesers hier in hierdie munisipaliteit. Julle is die mense wat besluit genoeg is genoeg. En vir julle sê ek baie dankie. Ek vra net om geduldig te wees, want dit gaan nog 'n tydjie vat, maar ons sal almal instaan en inspring om te help dat hierdie munisipaliteit die munisipaliteit word en waar dit hoort, waar dit moet hoort. It's unbelievable in this place. You know, this morning I went into your museum. Ek was in 'n plek waar die eerste munisipaliteit was in hierdie land. Dit was hierdie munisipaliteit, die eerste een in Suid-Afrika. Trots, ons bring hy trots terug. Dankie. This municipality, the first municipality in our country with a town hall.
Order. Premier, my apologies. Can I just remind the members in the gallery to please not participate in the proceedings of the House? And that includes clapping. I know that you are excited or you agree with the comments made by the Premier, but I would like to caution you that you cannot participate in the proceedings. Premier, you may continue.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I was just saying that it's the first municipality in our country, the first town hall in our country is in hierdie munisipaliteit en hierdie dorp. En hierdie is 'n plek van baie eerstes. En ek dink die uitdaging vir almal van ons is om vir julle te help om die nommer 1 munisipaliteit in ons land te word. Ek dink julle het al graag gewys in jou geskiedenis en ons as die Weskaap regering staan direk agter jou om julle te help om daai top munisipaliteit in ons land te word. Baie dankie Speaker dat ons hier kon wees het nou vir hierdie 2 dae. Dankie vir almal wat hulle bydrae gegee het in hierdie debatte. Dankie vir Coco en my baie netjiese haircut. Baie dankie vir die gastehuise, vir die grasvryheid, vir die koffiewinkels. Dankie vir die klerewinkel want ek het vergeet om 'n broek in te pak en ek kon 'n nuwe broekie kon koop. Baie dankie vir almal hier in Beaufort Wes en in die Karoo. Dit was so 'n lieflike opening van 'n parlement hier in die Karoo. Ek sê vir almal baie dankie. Veilig ry huis toe en dankie Speaker vir die geleentheid. Dankie.
Thank you very much to the Honourable Premier. Honourable members, that concludes the debate on the Premier's address, State of the Province address. Before I conclude or adjourn the House, I would like to take this opportunity to once again thank the community of Beaufort West for the wonderful opportunity to host the State of the Province address and the official opening in this beautiful town of Beaufort West. Members, thank you very much for your cooperation over the last 2 weeks. The standing committees have been hard at work doing oversight for the last couple of weeks leading up to the State of the Province address. So thank you very much to the standing committee. Honourable members and guests, I request that you please remain standing in your places or your seats while the procession leaves the chamber. Honourable members and guests, colleagues, That concludes the business of the day, and the House is now officially.